Well, hello, Mavericks. It's nice to see you here. This is Rob Reinhold, and it is the last day of May. So this is the last day to get your pips in before we close the books on May. So let's talk about what happened today. Now, we are coming off of a long weekend. We had the Memorial Day weekend in the U.S., and so all the things that I'm going to be going through are not just for the last 24 hours, but they're from when the market opened on Sunday at 5 p.m. So all the numbers, like I said, are going to be really from the last 2 days since we all took a little bit of time off for Memorial Day. In the equity markets, we saw the market shake off a pretty ugly early morning. And at one point, the NASDAQ was down 2%, the S&P was down 1.5%. And by the end of the day, you can see that everything ended up being down about 0.5%. But crypto, gold, and oil all got hit pretty hard. And so if we take a look at this candle, we had 3 really large candles. Now, whenever you get a really big expanded range candle, it's a big range from top to bottom. Either on the upside or the downside, the most common candle you get is the Harami. The Harami is usually in the bottom half, in the either the top half if you're long, bottom half if you're short. You get a big red candle down. This is the most common candle you get after an expanded range candle. And so this was not a surprise here. This is an expected move. And really, to me, the fact that the market didn't fall apart today and it held in was actually a fairly bullish sign. With the Harami pattern, it's really the day after the Harami that is the one that you really need to worry about. If we get an up candle, then it is a continuation of this run, and we probably take a run up here to this 50-period moving average like we talked about in the weekend. If we fall, that was probably it for the rally, and you want to get back on the short side. We take a look at the VT, the World Index, same thing, another Harami candle. Going to have to wait and see what tomorrow's candle brings. And cryptos, look, the only positive thing I can say about cryptos is that they broke a pretty big low base here and didn't have another leg down. They had a little rally over the weekend. Again, this was on the weekend on light volume. When the volume came back in, you can see that it was a down day overall for the currency basket. So we are still very bearish on cryptos, but just right now, it looks like they want to go back into this range where they've been trading for a while. We had a little breakdown, it recovered, so we're just back in the trading range on cryptos. So we've got a 0 on the equity markets. We are definitely in kind of no man's land here. We're above the 20-day moving average. We're below the 50, and the slope of the 20-50 are flattening out. This is truly a 0. We just, at this point, we need more data. And until we have more data on this, technical analysis isn't really going to do us any good here. And so equities, I think, are very mixed here. And I don't think you're going to get a lot of help from equities pushing currencies around one way or the other. If we take a look at the calendar, you can see we've got a pretty major announcement out tomorrow. We've got the Bank of Canada rate statement. Now, I just did a Bank of Canada rate statement preview. You'll be having that here in just a short little bit of time, and we'll go through all the possible things that can happen to the Bank of Canada and the Canadian dollar tomorrow at 10 a.m. And then you can see, other than that, really just Friday U.S. payrolls report, where we'll also be meeting live for that one as well. Let's go ahead and jump into the currencies one by one. So let's take a look first at the performance of the cryptos. Again, this is since last Friday. We've got basically Bitcoin Cash flat. Ether, Litecoin, Solana down. And Cardano, it's got a little bit of news out there. It popped up 5.5%. It was up more and it gave some back. Look, I do not expect these gains to hold. And again, you can see that Ethereum continues to be weak. I think these are going lower. We just had a little short-term bottom here. In the currencies, we talked about yen being the worst currency, and it was. We had a lot of downside momentum on Sunday, Monday, which was really great. Other than that, CAD has been the best, and with Aussie in number 2. Going into the rest of this week, we think this is likely to stay. So let's take a look at them individually. I'm going to start first with, I'm going to go to a 4-hour chart. I've got a 4-hour chart, and I've got the parabolic SAR, I've got the EMA, and I've got the RSI. First off, let's start with Bitcoin. And all I can say about Bitcoin is short term, it gave me a turn. Now, if you take a look back here, if someone had a gun to my head and said, Rob, you have to trade Bitcoin, I would have to trade it on the long side, even though all the charts, all the longer term charts look absolutely atrocious. I mean, just so bad. These charts look so terrible. But when you get into these shorter term time frames, there's more velocity to the upside than the downside. But to me, I'm just going to sit this one out. I have no desire to try to catch a little bounce. Again, people have been trying to do that. These cryptos have fallen 30%, and people are going out there trying to catch 3 or 4% bounces, and then it falls another 30% on them. Don't run out into a highway to pick up some nickels. It's not worth it. Wait for these to bottom out, then get in, and it's going to be a great trade. We just have to be patient here. So Bitcoin Cash, again, if someone had a gun to my head, said you have to go long or short, I'd have to go long. I'd have to go long. It's showing momentum to the upside, but I've got these all to zero. Ethereum, I'd say, doesn't look as good. So if you really had to make a trade, I think Bitcoin looks better. Let's take a look at Litecoin. Litecoin held up the best on the way down. On the way up, it's so-so. So if you have to make a trade, which you don't, I think you trade Bitcoin. Let's take a look at our currency baskets, our foreign currency baskets. All right, this here is dollar. And you can see dollar was weak last week, really, really weak. And then at the end of last week, we basically plateaued. We had the dollar at a flat, saying, hey, you know what? It wasn't a -2, but we thought it was going to go to flat and that we didn't really look to trade it. And the dollar hasn't really done anything this week at all. The yen was at a 0, and we said, this is where we think the velocity is. Short yen. And sure enough, yen short was a good trade. So we got into Kiwi yen, Aussie yen on the first part of this week, and they've been great trades. Let's take a look at Swiss franc. But just let me follow up on yen. There's still more follow through on yen. This could be the bottom. No one knows where bottoms are. But what I do know is you could have said it was a bottom here and here and here. We got a tiny little bounce here and then another leg down. This thing is weak right now. I have no idea when it's going to end, but if I'm going to trade, I want to trade the strongest against the weakest. Swiss franc is flat. That's all I'm going to say. There's no reason at all to look at it. If the Swiss franc can break out above these certain levels, I will be more willing to take a look at it. But until then, to me, it's just flat. And I'm looking for the next 24 hours of trades. I'm looking at euro here. Euro doesn't look like it wants to go anywhere in the near term. So I'll forget about euro. Come over to pound. You're going to see the same thing. Look at this range on pound. Anyone trying to trade pound is very frustrated right now. There's just no reason to trade it. There's nothing going on here. Let's go to the CAD. Now the CAD looks strong. We had weakness last week, and then we started to strengthen at the middle of last week, and we've continued to strengthen. Now we are hitting our head against a little bit of resistance here. Going into tomorrow's Bank of Canada, I really like this. If we can clear this resistance area, I think we've got a nice runway for the CAD to go higher off of the Bank of Canada news. So the Canadian dollar is showing us a +3 at the moment. And then the Aussie was great. The Aussie was great for the first part of this week. And then last part of last week, we're just pausing here. We're basing. Until we can break above resistance, there's no reason at all to get excited. But once it does, I think you can take a long on the Aussie again. And you can see the Kiwi is not quite as strong as the Aussie. It is back down a little bit. It is more of a pullback than a base. And things short term don't look all that great for Kiwi here. So this is where we were in the velocity score on Friday, where the market closed on Friday. We definitely have to say that the cryptos are off the bottom. They're no longer terrible. They're just, don't touch them. We had the yen slide that we thought. Sure enough, yen is the weakest currency at the moment. The dollar got a little stronger. CAD got a lot stronger. And you can see everything else that was up at the top, Aussie, Kiwi, Swiss franc, just kind of faded a little bit. We just faded a little bit. They're basing, they're pulling back. Until they finish these bases or pullbacks, we can't get excited to be long them. And then the euro, has gone up to don't touch me, I'm in the middle. As you can see here, there's really only one cross to trade. It's CAD yen. It's CAD yen. So with that being said, let's take a look at CAD yen. That's really literally all there is to trade at the moment. Now I'm going to do a pretty short little version of this because I go in depth into CAD yen when we get into the Bank of Canada preview. But daily chart, let's take a look at the daily. And you can see that we are high basing on a daily chart. We had a big run in March. And really from April to May, we've traded between this range. Until we trade up above this major range, there's no reason to believe there's a major uptrend in CAD starting or a major downtrend. But if we go in a little bit closer, we go into a 4-hour chart, we're seeing that right here, right now, the CAD has a lot of momentum against the yen. When we go to an hourly chart, this is as clear as it can get. We've got a base forming, and we talked about an entry above the 101.95 area. So the 101.95 area is where I think you can put some orders out there. But remember, be cautious. Going into the Bank of Canada, I think you don't want to have those orders out there. I think you want to cancel those orders, pull back, and do a second stage entry like I talk about in the Bank of Canada preview. So this really is the only trade here. A buy stop at 101.95 with the sell stop down here at 101.57. I think that's the trade over the next 24 hours. So in conclusion, I think the equity markets are 50-50 here. I think you can flip a coin. Tomorrow's candle is going to be important. If it's an up day, I think we go higher. If it goes below today's low, then I think that's all we get for the rally. Until then, I'm not really ready to make any sort of call whatsoever. That being said, I do like CAD long, and I also like Aussie and Kiwi long. On the short side, I think yen is the best short, with the euro as the second best short, and the cryptos, just stay away from them. Thanks for joining me. That is the market recap. See you later.